They say the sea never forgets. Every wave carries whispers of stories too dangerous for men to repeat. And in the small coastal village of Ko, one name still echoes when the wind turns cold: Joro, the fisherman who dared to catch a mermaid. On nights when the moonlight dances across the water, the villagers swear they can still hear a woman's cry beneath the waves, the sound of tears turning to diamonds. But how did a man born with nothing, a man desperate for love and food, become cursed by his own greed? What secret lies buried beneath the shimmering surface of the sea? Tonight, we'll tell you the story of Mermaid Tears. The tale of how one man's hunger for wealth broke the heart of the ocean itself. Before we dive into this haunting Nigerian folktale, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this story if you love traditional African tales told with heart and mystery. Your support helps keep these stories alive, passed from the old storytellers to new listeners like you. Now, settle in, because this one will stay with you long after the waves go quiet. In the coastal village of Ko, the sea was both a mother and a monster. It gave life, fish for the pots, salt for the trade, but it also took with tides that swallowed men whole. Every last day of the month, not a single fisherman dared to sail. The elders said that was the night the sea spirits rose to hunt. So on that day, the beach lay empty, no laughter, no nets, only the restless crash of waves. But Joro, a thin young fisherman with tired eyes, was desperate. His mother had just been buried, and with her went the last of his peace. He owed money to everyone, to the traders, the boat owners, even the palm wine man. The debt collectors had started coming to his hut before dawn, banging on his door, demanding what he didn't have. That evening, Joro sat outside, staring at the sea. The wind carried the salt smell of despair. He muttered, "If I don't fish tonight, I'll starve." He pushed his old canoe into the dark water, ignoring the fear crawling in his gut. The sea was silent, unnaturally so. Even the gulls had vanished. Joro cast his net and waited, heart thumping like a drumbeat. Then he heard something. Not a splash, not a wave, but a soft hum, like someone singing beneath the water. He froze. There, on a rock at the far end of the shore, sat a figure. Her hair was long, black, glistening with moonlight. She didn't move. At first, Joro thought it was a trick of the night, until she turned her head. Her eyes were bright as lanterns, and below her waist shimmered a tail of silver and blue scales. Joro gasped. A mermaid? Fear seized his throat. Every story he'd ever heard about sea spirits came rushing back, the ones who lured men to their deaths, the ones who stole souls. He wanted to row away, but his arms refused to move. The mermaid simply looked at him and smiled. That night, Joro didn't sleep. His hands shook as he told himself, "I saw nothing. It was just the sea playing tricks." But deep down, he knew the truth. He had seen her. The next evening, curiosity dragged him back. The sun bled orange into the waves as he paddled toward the same spot. And there she was again, sitting on that rock, as if she had been waiting for him. Her name was Sanu. Her voice was soft, like the rhythm of the tide. She told him she had watched the village from afar for years, watched men fish, fight, and fall in love, never daring to approach them. Joro laughed awkwardly, his fear melting little by little. In time, their meetings became nightly. He told her about his mother's death, about his debts, about the shame of being a poor man among rich neighbors. Stu listened quietly, her eyes kind. One night, as they spoke, Sanu's face darkened. "When I cry," she whispered, "my tears turn to diamonds. But it is a curse, not a gift. Each tear carries a piece of my soul." Joro's breath caught. "Diamonds." She nodded sadly, and one glimmering tear slid down her cheek. It landed on his palm, hard, shining like a star. He could hardly believe it. In his hands lay enough wealth to pay his debts 100 times. But shame stopped him from asking for more. He thanked her and left, trembling. By morning, he sold the diamond in the town market. The merchant's eyes widened. Joro walked away with more money than he had ever seen. He bought a new canoe, better nets, even new clothes. The villagers stared. The poor fisherman was suddenly prosperous. Still, every night he returned to the sea. At first, they talked. Then, slowly, the talks became shorter. His eyes no longer searched for her smile, only for the glint of another tear. He began to visit not as a friend, but as a beggar of treasures. Sanu noticed the change. Her songs became quieter. Her laughter faded. But when he told her of his troubles, she still cried for him. And each time Joro caught her tears in his hands. Soon his house was larger. His debts were gone. Yet he wanted more. More boats. More gold. More everything. One night, greed crept into his mind like a shadow. For tears bring diamonds, he thought, why not keep her with me, forever? The sea was silent again, as if it knew what was coming. That night, under the full moon, Joro made a plan that would change his fate and hers forever. The kind-hearted fisherman had vanished. In his place, greed had taken form. The night was calm, almost too calm. The sea slept under a pale moon, its silver surface hiding the fury that waited beneath. That was the night Joro carried out his plan. He waited until the last day of the month, the one day no fisherman dared to go near the water. With a heavy wooden club tucked beside him, he paddled toward the rock where Sanu always sat. When she saw him, her face lit up with joy. "Joro," she smiled. "I thought you had forgotten me." But Joro's smile was empty. His heart thudded, not with love, but with greed. He approached slowly, pretending calm. "How could I forget you, Sanu? You've given me everything." Before she could answer, he raised the club high and struck her. The sound cracked through the night like a broken wave. Anu fell, her tail splashing helplessly. The sea itself seemed to gasp. Joro caught her before she slipped beneath the water. He dragged her into his canoe, his breath heavy, his eyes wild. By dawn, he had carried her to his home, hidden her in a small room, and locked the door. When Sanu woke, her head throbbed, her wrists were tied. Her voice was muffled by cloth. Joro sat nearby, his face gleaming with sweat and madness. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "but you will make me rich. Your tears, they're my future." Days turned into nights. When she refused to cry, he shouted, begged, even beat her. Each time her tears fell, they hardened into diamonds, and he gathered them like a man possessed. Soon his home grew larger, filled with gold, cloth, and jewels. Villagers whispered, how could Joro, the poorest fisherman, become the richest man in Ko? But greed always leaves a trail. Among those who doubted Joro was a young man named foul, sharp-eyed, and restless. He had seen Joro's sudden fortune, his arrogance, his growing distance from the villagers. And so, one night, Fao followed him. When Joro left for the market, Fowl slipped behind his house and peered through a cracked window. What he saw froze his blood. A woman? No. A creature sat chained in the corner, her hair tangled, her tail glimmering faintly even in the dim light. Her eyes were hollow with pain. A mermaid. Fow's breath caught. He could hardly believe his eyes. And then she looked at him. Her lips moved silently, pleading, "Help me." Before he could act, footsteps thudded outside. Joro was returning. Fao ducked beneath the window as the door creaked open. Inside, Joro's drunken laughter filled the room. "Cry," he ordered. "Just one more time." Sanu shook her head weakly, whispering that she could no longer weep. But his greed knew no mercy. The slap echoed, the diamonds fell, and her sobs filled the air. Outside, Fau clenched his fists. That sound would haunt him forever. That night, he couldn't sleep. The image of the mermaid's broken face burned behind his eyes. He knew what he had to do. The next night, he returned, this time with a cart and a knife to cut her free. Luck, or perhaps justice, was on his side. Joro was drunk again, his gate wide open. Fowl crept in, untied Sanu's ropes, and carried her to the cart. Her body was weak, her skin cold, but her eyes, those eyes still shimmered with hope. They reached the beach just as the first light touched the horizon. The sea murmured softly, waiting. But then a shout. "Thief!" Joro's voice tore through the dawn. He stumbled out with his gun, firing wildly into the air. Villagers poured out of their huts, chasing the noise toward the shore. Thao stood firm, trembling. "You can't keep her like this, Joro. She's a living being. She's mine," Joro bellowed. "She's not human. She's my treasure." As they argued, Sanu dragged herself from the cart, crawling toward the waves. Her tail left a trail of glittering scales in the sand. "No!" Joro screamed, lunging after her. The moment her fingers touched the water, the sea came alive. The waves rose like walls, curling with fury. The air trembled. Joro dived after her, but the ocean had decided his fate. The waves twisted and pulled him down, his screams swallowed by foam and silence. When the sea grew still again, only the moonlight rippled on its surface. The villagers stared in awe and fear. Thao dropped to his knees, trembling as he told them everything. By morning, Joro's body washed ashore, cold and lifeless. He was buried without song or honor. As for Sanu, the villagers say she returned to her world beneath the waves, where her family waited. Her tears no longer turned to diamonds, only to salt the kind that healed the sea. And from that day on, no fisherman in Ko ever sailed on the last day of the month again, 'cause they knew the sea remembers. And so ends the story of Mermaid Tears, a Nigerian folktale that reminds us that greed may fill your hands, but it will always empty your soul. What did you think of Joro's fate? Would you have helped the mermaid, or turned away in fear? Tell us in the comments. Your voice keeps these stories alive. If you enjoyed this tale, like, share, and subscribe for more African folktales that carry the wisdom and wonder of the old storytellers. Until next time, keep your heart pure, your spirit kind, and remember, sometimes the sea watches back.